thoughts of an introvert. My lovelies, get yourself a cup of cappuccino, a cup of tea, and let's have a chat. So if you're new here, I would advise you to just go check out the different playlists on my channel so you get to understand the kind of conversations that we have here. So I know I have lots of videos about relocating, moving abroad, migrating. Just check out our relocation playlist, but let's dive into the other side of the reality. My question is relocation the answer to all your problems? Or better said, what are the things that you should consider before even relocating? And these are the not so rosy side of relocation, you know, things that I would call the dark side of living abroad, things that most people don't actually talk about, and everyone dreams of moving abroad, relocation, because you're thinking that's the solution to my problems. Yes, it can be, but it's also very important to know the dark side, the not so good side, the things that are not often talked about but are also equally important. So moving abroad, no matter which country you come from, you'll always have a problem of having to constantly prove yourself, especially in the work sector. So I'll give an example of myself. German citizen, African migrant background. No matter what I do, no matter how much effort I put in, people will always have these expectations, like they're actually waiting for you to fail. If I make a mistake, it will not be looked at as a mistake. Everyone's going to be like, oh, she's a migrant, or maybe she's not conversant with the German language, or maybe she's not so well qualified. If my colleague makes the same mistake, everyone's going to be like, oh, he made a mistake, she made a mistake, be it in writing an email, be it in writing a report. But if I do make the same mistake, then I'm unfortunately going to be judged as incompetent. It's not fair, it's not right, but that is one of the dark sides of moving abroad. So you have to be prepared to work hard, you know, trust in yourself. But those are things I'll be talking at the end to give you the tips of how to overcome these hardships and maybe have relocation as the answer to your problems or to all your dreams. Not forgetting the societal pressure. We talk about people especially come from the third world. You have the pressure, like everyone knows, you move to Germany, you move to Europe, you move to the USA, you move to Canada. Everyone expects you to be a billionaire next month. Honestly, like unrealistic expectations. I've seen in some countries, like when you go on social media, you see people from Kenya, people from South Africa, you know, their fellow countrymen asking them, what have you done back home? Have you built a house? Have you done this? Have you done that? Which I find ridiculous, because success is not measured by if you've built a house. We all have different measures of success. We all have different priorities and goals in life. Personally, I spend actually most of my money on traveling, you know. A house, I'm not sure if it's a priority. I have nothing against the house, but it's definitely not top of my list. I have other priorities. So still, it is going to be there that people are going to expect you. And then we talk about the black tax, you know, people especially from the African community, you'll have relatives that you've never heard of, that you've never been in touch with, expect you to send them money to support them financially, even close family, you know, depending on what kind of background you have, which can be very stressful, which can be very mentally taxing, you know. And I've seen lots of stories about, yes, definitely be ready to deal with the pressure and the expectations of the different people, depending on the society you're coming from and why you came here anyway, or to any other country that you moved to abroad, you know. One thing that no one talks about is the financial stagnation. So let me see how to cut this down. Financial stagnation, everyone's going to be like, okay, if you live in Germany, you're earning better, blah, blah, blah. Yes, it's true. But the cost of living here is very high. The taxes are very high. You know, we have taxes for basically everything. We pay taxes for TV, we pay taxes for accommodation, we pay taxes. Everywhere is taxes. So by the time you finish paying all your bills, you've paid taxes, you paid rent or mortgage, you've paid for taxes for your car, and so on and so forth. Your salary is almost gone, you know, depending on how much someone earns. So definitely there's a problem of financial stagnation. Like I said, people expect you to be a billionaire the next year, but it's not the case, you know. The people that are willing to do 3-4 jobs to, you know, be able to come out of that will, but it's not easy. Can you have a good life even with our salary here? Yes, of course. But when you compare it, for example, to back home, I find it quite amazing that there's someone in Uganda who earns 500 euro a month and they survive and they're comfortable, they're paying rent. And so it's really amazing to compare the two. So before you even think about relocation, ask yourself, what kind of qualifications do I have? What kind of salary bracket do I fall in? And if I fall into the lower salary bracket, what am I willing to do about it, to make sure that I get to earn well and not get into financial stagnation? So you will need definitely financial literacy, know how to save, know how to earn more income if necessary, and so on and so forth. For me, one of the top ones is the loneliness. Yes, it can get really, really lonely living abroad. For me, I'll speak for Germany because that's where I stay. It can get really lonely here. Reason being, everyone is hustling, everyone is busy with their life, and of course the cultures. Here in Germany, even if someone is your best friend, if you want to hang out with them, you have to make an appointment, and not this business of, like in Africa, you call someone at lunchtime and you're like, do you want to hang out? No, that doesn't exist here. So definitely it can be lonely, and of course considering that it might not be easy to make new friends when you move to a new country, friends that will have time for you, friends that will be there for you, and also I would say the lifestyle. For example, the German people are not so much like, let me say, like in Uganda or Rwanda, where people live in the moment, where people celebrate life. They're more focused on the future. So you're going to find that it's very confusing for you. It's lonely because you have expectations of, I want to hang out with my friend every once in a while. I want to go to the club. And you find the German people don't have that. For them, it's enough if they're getting their 30 days holiday a year and they're sorted, which is very difficult for us, especially. I'll talk for the Black people. That's not how we live our life. We love to celebrate life every day, to live every day, to live in the moment. So it's very, very lonely and difficult to adjust. Many people ask me about racism. Yes, racism exists, I would say everywhere, but the degree varies. For example, we don't compare the American racism to German racism, or the racism in the UK to the racism here. What I like to say is there will always be rotten apples in every society, but yes, racism, especially in big cities, can be a factor. I've been trying to analyze this racism situation for some years now, and I've come to realize I've never been truly exposed to it, thank God, because I live in the countryside. So there's a big difference if someone lives in the countryside or in a city. If you live in a city, you are more likely to experience racism, even to a very brutal degree, compared to someone who lives in the countryside. And then if we're talking Germany, I always say, if you're a migrant, try to avoid East Germany. Like, it's not a good or safe place for you to live if you really want to avoid racism. Culture shock. I think that could even be a video of its own. Like I said, the difference in lifestyle, the difference in how people view life here, the difference in how people view relationships, the language barrier, it goes on and on. So the culture shocks, that's like an entire video, but definitely you'll get the culture shocks of your life. Just like the German people also not understand your culture at the beginning, but the culture shock is huge because, again, like I said, the German people, for example, are not so social. They're not going to be like people in Africa where people like to hang out, where people like to chill, where people like to live in the moment. That doesn't exist here. So it makes it really, really tough at the beginning. For me, it's perfectly okay, again, because I'm an introvert and I could survive anywhere, I actually love to be alone than with people. But on a whole, the culture shock is very, very unbelievable. One wouldn't expect that because you would imagine we have the financial means, we have the infrastructure, so you'd expect that all things would move so smoothly, but no, there will always be that differences in culture. Now, this is like a contradiction, I have a video where I tell you about the good things of moving abroad, like good employment, good working conditions, but you can also face unemployment. And this is why it's important to consider all these factors before you even think about relocation. How qualified are you? Which category do you fall in? Are you in the skilled workers? Are you in the unskilled workers? Weigh your options and see if that is something that even makes sense for you. It is possible for you to face unemployment, especially if you are an unskilled worker, if you are not open to, getting further qualifications, working on yourself, maybe even taking another route, from what you're qualified for and deciding to go into another profession. So definitely that is also a possibility that you have to keep in mind. We talked about loneliness. Loneliness goes hand in hand with mental stress and depression. It is very common here. I've experienced it myself, not depression, but I do believe I suffer from winter blues. My mood during winter is very, very bad. Like, I'm down, I'm not excited. That's why I call myself the sunny girl. If you meet me in spring or now, I'm totally different. My vibe is totally different. I resonate something totally different, But in winter, I think I'm slightly, not depressed, but I would just say winter blues. Like, I'm not at my happiest, at my best during winter. So that's something you have to keep in mind, because it gets dark very early, it stays dark long, it's very cold. The dress code, for me, that alone depresses me, having to wear so many layers of clothes. That is really something that might be challenging for you. So definitely keep in mind navigating the terrible weather. Some people have it. I don't like winter. Some people have it. So it depends, but keep that in mind, the coldness, if that is something you can live with, because the winter is long. We have coldness for around 4 months, 6 months if you're not lucky. Like this year, the summer is taking forever to show up. Like, it's not getting warm. And it's probably possible that you have to endure the cold for 5 months. That's a long time, especially for someone coming from tropical weather, tropical temperatures. You definitely have to keep that in mind. And like I said, those are some of the dark sides of relocation that no one talks about, that you need to know. Oh my God, I didn't even realize there were so many of them. They almost outweigh the positives of relocation. No, not scaring you, but this is a holistic channel. This is a social empowerment channel, and I like the conversations to be holistic and not, selling you something that is not real. Keeping in mind navigating the laws. I don't have to go into details really. Just go into my relocation playlist and you'll understand what I'm talking about. Make yourself conversant with the laws of the country that you intend to relocate to, even before you relocate. Get to understand the dynamics of your, how do I get my visa? How do I get my citizenship? How do I get my work permit? How do I get my, residential permit, and so on and so forth, so that when you come, you don't fall into cold water. And that brings me to our social empowerment services. I do gladly offer those services: immigration service and consultation, integration. So if you're someone that is planning to relocate or have already relocated, you can leave me an email on our website, RUZHOFFS.com. And we can have a chat. I can offer you an integration consultation where I hold your hand and take you through all the dynamics of integrating in a new country. Preferably you do that before relocation, but you can also do that after relocating. Career limitations. Oh my God, some of these points are so broad, but I'm not going to go so deep into it. So if you're moving to Germany, you've heard a lot about Anerkennung, qualification recognition. Some degrees, unfortunately, are not recognized here. So again, why I offer also career guidance consultation services. You have to keep in mind, even at a younger level, if you're a mom, make sure your children make the right career choices. We are living in a very, very fast moving world, so you have to consider, does it make sense for my child to learn a degree in greeting people? No, now I'm exaggerating, but I know there's some useless degrees out there. Keep that in mind. Get career guidance if you have to, and make sure you get to learn, pick careers and qualifications and degrees that will really elevate your life, that will give you more opportunities internationally. So unfortunately, it might be that you have a degree that will never be recognized here in Germany, and you have to start from zero. And not just Germany, we're talking about Europe, USA, and Canada. So always make smart decisions. If you're parents and you're guiding your children through, their career options, make sure you gather information. And if you can't handle that by yourself, make sure you get yourself a career guidance consultation, which I'll gladly offer you. We talked about language. Definitely, depending on which country you're relocating to. Prejudices, I like to put that in because there's a difference between racism and prejudices, So we have prejudices by virtue of your skin color, and you are assumed automatically to be incompetent because there are people who, for example, still believe that if you come from Africa, you come from Uganda, we have lions running around and we ride on elephants and feed with the kangaroos, you know. So these prejudices, if someone has them in their head, they can't imagine an African girl like me, you know, being highly qualified, being highly intelligent, coming from an academic family, coming from not a poor family, not living in a hut. So those are prejudices that people unfortunately carry with them, and they might put you in a box, you know. So definitely those might be part of them. Dating problems. We also have a playlist called Navigating Life. Check that out. I have a few videos about dating and tips and, you know, all ideas. But dating problems, definitely. Like I said, we hustle so hard. People work so much here. It's difficult to socialize. The German society doesn't really have a socializing culture, and that is not just in German, but the first world. People are way too busy, and I guess that's why we have dating apps now. It might be challenging to find a partner, a good partner, so that is something you have to keep in mind. So as we conclude this video, my lovelies, if you've watched thus far, don't forget to join our family, Thoughts of an Introvert. Subscribe, share this with your friend, invite your friends to come and join the chat, and of course, make sure to check out all my socials: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Snapchat, and Threads under the same name, RUZHOFFS. So concluding, this being a social empowerment channel, I don't like throwing problems out there and not giving a few insights or tips or solutions. So all the things that I've talked about, those are the challenges, are the dark sides of moving abroad, but you can do something about it. So I'm just going to go very quickly through it. Like I said, when it comes to racism, there are rotten apples in every society. Just make sure you're very self-confident. Just make sure you know the laws. If someone crosses the boundary, you make sure you can report them, you know, to the police, to the authorities. Make sure you learn the language. If you move to a country where you don't speak the language, that will save you lots of trouble. It will help you integrate easily. It will help you find a job. So as you can see, it's very easy to go around these dynamics if you are informed about them before you even relocate. Loneliness and the culture shock, and you have to try that and see what happens. Try to make friends. Don't stay in a box. Like I've seen some Africans who come here, they've lived 10 years here and they only want to be friends with Africans. I would say diversify, try out different cultures, try out different nationalities, and that way I feel you learn more, you develop more, you integrate more, because you're going out of the box, you're getting different life perspectives, you're getting, you know, different ideologies which could push you further in life. So definitely keep that in mind. And of course, for dating, just hop onto the dating apps and you will definitely find your partner. My lovelies, thank you so much for taking a front row seat in my head. Until next time, bye.